how to deal with lustful thoughts every single time. I'm like, dude, I don't deal with them. I just let them go. I let them fall off. I let it be like a waterfall, and the water is just running down and going away. I don't want to make mountains out of molehills. I don't want to big monuments out of moments. A lot of people do this, where they see one thing and then they attach to it forever. I'm like, yeah, it's what was there, is what was seen, but we don't need to entertain on it any further because it's non-productive and it's non-helpful. Like, what's going to happen? How are you going to possibly win over a lustful thought when you try to fight it, when you try to combat it, when you try to think about it more and more and more? Fighting it is going to have you thinking about it more and more and more. The only way that I'd say I'd fight it is by releasing myself of all of my armor and my necessity to need to push on it and just walk away.
You like this, you like being daddy's arms with microphones now. You like being a worker. You're made for the camera. Both my boys are.
Hey, this video you are about to watch is a part of a series where I show you how to quit porn the right way. So do yourself a favor, binge on all of this content, all the videos that you possibly can, because who knows, maybe if the value and the trust is built together over this journey, you'll want to jump into a community that I call Fit for Family. Or maybe you think these videos suck, and that's also fair too. But nonetheless, there's only one way for us to find out. So enough of me, let's get back to serving you and let's get back to the video. All right, man, let's have some real talk right now on how to overcome lustful thoughts. I'm making this video because I had someone recently ask me, Matt, how do I fight lustful thoughts? I'm struggling to fight them. I'm doing my best, but I feel like they're winning and I end up succumbing to it and I don't really know what to do. Even if I'm not going to porn, I'm in this fantasy land and I don't know what to do. Can you help me learn how to fight lust better? And I said to him, I'd absolutely love to, but there's a huge, huge problem right now. And he's like, what is it? And we were with a group of people and I said, the problem is with how you're framing the question. I said, I already know why you'll never break free from lust. And I say, because you think it's a fight. When you say, how do I fight lustful thoughts? You'll never, ever win. Because I don't fight them. I let them go. Fighting is a lot of energy and a lot of power and a lot of jarring, right? Imagine a game of tug of war where you want to be pure in your thought and your action on one side, and then the lustful thoughts are like, but I want you to come here. And if you start pulling back and forth, you're very, very attached to the thoughts, to the influences, to the game that you're now playing. And what does it take for someone to win? It depends on what game you want to play. I find that I don't even want to play this game, so why try to win it? So I let go. So when it pulls, it gets thrown into the mud. And practically, in all application for it, here's how I want us to view it. Here's what I think could be a more supportive way for you to see it, is that it's not illegal for you to have a lustful thought come into your mind, because I believe that lustful thoughts, first and foremost, are not on the inside of our heart. You need to know that first and foremost. It's on the outside, trying to knock and come in. I believe that we're a new creation. I believe that we are made new. I believe that the old has passed away, and behold, all things have become new, like Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians. I believe that inside of Christ, that we are children of Him, of God, of the Father, that we have a new dad. The devil's not our dad anymore. And so because of that, I believe that the inward bend of my heart is to do right, is to do good, is to do correct, is to want to move towards and long for the things that God longs for as well. And so because of that, whenever a lustful thought comes, I don't believe that I'm the originator of it. A lot of guys get tripped up because they think the lustful thoughts are coming from within them. But I actually believe that we're being so renewed by God, our truest self wants to take over with Him, that when a lustful thought comes, it's almost presented as an opportunity, but because it's knocking at the door, you don't know if it's on the inside or on the out. You don't know if it's on the inside trying to get out, and you're like, uh-oh, there's a lustful thought within me. And if you open the door, it'll run out. Or if it's on the outside and you open the door, it'll come in. And so I personally just treat lustful thoughts without much deliberation or much energy or much intent. And because of where I live here in Hawaii, you know, if I'm on the beach, and of course there's women everywhere, there's men everywhere, and there's a lot of women obviously in bikinis and dressed, and you can see what was going on for all of them. I can see someone and be like, wow, that's a beautiful woman. Wow, that's a beautiful woman with a beautiful body. Not my wife, not my body, not my woman. I'm okay to keep moving on. And I just let it go. And if I see a really beautiful girl, I'll be like, yeah, she's really beautiful. And my wife and I will have those honest conversations with each other where she'll reference someone and she'll be like, so there's this guy. And I'll be like, well, who was he? And she's like, I don't know. He is like probably like a few years older than us. He was pretty good looking, or like he was really attractive and this, that. But I don't get insecure, and neither does she, when we reference people for what just is a fact. See, I think a lot of times we've grown to mistrust and vilify our desires or vilify the absolute facts that, you know, are around us in life. There's someone that I would see as beautiful that in your view, you'd be like, okay, I can see why you think that, but I'm just not drawn to someone that way, and vice versa. And it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're gross. It doesn't mean that you're evil. It means that you are a human being that's seeing people through the lens view that God gave. And so when I see somebody and I'm like, hey, that girl has really big boobs at the beach, and we're walking, and my family and I are right there, it's like, yep, that's just a fact. But I don't need to entertain it. Seeing something once is generally, you know, a mishap, an accident. But what you do with it the second time is what matters. If you're doing double takes, triple takes. You know, I remember one time we were in Venice Beach in Southern California, and I remember we were at the beach, we were walking across, and we're actually on a mission trip, believe it or not, doing in Venice and Skid Row and a ton of other things. And I remember that there was a girl on drugs, and she was yelling things, doing things out of nowhere, dude. She totally like stripped butt naked. It was hysterical and crazy and so sad because, you know, just humiliating herself publicly. But I couldn't believe what we were seeing. And I had a group of younger dudes with me. They were probably just like teenagers, right? They were like 15, 16 years old. And I just said to them, I was like, dudes, I was like, everybody, I was like, that way, like, look that way. Like, clearly we all saw it. And I'm not going to shame anybody for it, but I'm going to explain to them the heart behind it. I said, if anything, I want you to think of that through a lens view of compassion, that she doesn't know who she is. She has no clue who God is. She doesn't know how loved she is. She degraded herself. And, you know, she was like throwing food at us or whatever. And so that was like the humorous aspect that I thought to the story. But the point is that I could recall that scenario in my mind right now. I just want you to know this. Just think with me for a minute. I could recall that scenario right now and seeing the image of that girl like naked in my mind's eye, in my memory. But I don't think it's worth me suffering over myself and hating myself and say, oh, it's got to be gone and I can't believe that's there, and get angry and frustrated. I'm like, no, it's just there. Let it go. The more energy you give something, the bigger the problem gets. So that if I really start like thinking and I'm frustrated that I am, my brain's like, ooh, this is taking up a lot of mental capacity. And so it's going to increase the fire, increase the flame. And I just don't feel that to be useful in our life. So when we talk about how to deal with lustful thoughts every single time, I'm like, dude, I don't deal with them. I just let them go. I let them fall off. I let it be like a waterfall, and the water is just running down and going away. I don't want to make mountains out of molehills. I don't want to big monuments out of moments. A lot of people do this, where they see one thing and then they attach to it forever. And I'm like, yeah, it's what was there, is what was seen, but we don't need to entertain on it any further because it's non-productive and it's non-helpful. Like, what's going to happen? How are you going to possibly win over a lustful thought when you try to fight it, when you try to combat it, when you try to think about it more and more and more? Fighting it is going to have you thinking about it more and more and more. The only way that I'd say I'd fight it is by releasing myself of all of my armor and my necessity to need to push on it and just walk away. Walk away. You know, how many fights would actually be completely absolved or resolved if someone just walked away? It only takes one. There's this almost story or picture that I'd seen of a bunch of matches, and a bunch of them were black and burnt out, and then a bunch of them were red as if they'd never been lit. And there was one match that was pulled down in the middle of the picture. And it says, is all it takes is one to stop the madness. All it takes is one to stop the fire. All it takes is one to stop the fight. And it's really, really true. All of these little candles had been burnt upon each other because they had been so close in proximity. And the other candle, they were all in a row, all in the same spacing, was just down a little further, probably about like 2 inches. And because of that, it couldn't actually get lit in order to jump over and continue lighting all the rest of the candles. And that's how I perceive it with lustful thoughts. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. It's not worth my effort. It's not even necessarily worth having the conversation, but it's worth making maybe a quick video on to expound and explain to you, because I don't want any one of us to just feel unnecessary amounts of shame for having seen something in our mind's eye. I mean, think of Jesus, for crying out loud, with the woman who was caught in adultery, who was dragged before him. A lot of scholars believe that she was completely naked, completely ashamed, completely just exposed there. And Jesus is able to see her with sympathy, empathy, and compassion. He even says to the religious leaders, and he's like, "He who is without sin may cast the first stone." The point is that they left from oldest to youngest because the oldest men there recognized in their life experience that they were all at fault. And then the youngest of them left after that. And so when you see that story, and you see that Jesus is able to see a woman with purity in his heart and purity in his eyes, it's because he's not giving all the attention and the overwhelming thought process of like, I can't believe in it. He's not judging himself for it. He's understanding his heart, he's knowing her heart, and he's looking with purity at her. And so I've seen people be able to do that. I've seen in my life be able to do that. Heck, we were at a beach publicly that we go often to with our family, and there was a woman actually probably about a few months ago who was like on drugs and like really, really sad, and she just ripped off her top, just completely topless there at a family beach in front of a bunch of people, and we just didn't give it any energy and thought. We just look away, do our own thing. Like, I don't want to be the one to have to try to confront her or minister to her and do that. That's not the grace on my life to go there. Hopefully another woman or someone, but she ended up just putting her shirt back on and walking away. But I think what would have made it worse is if we create a big scene and escalate it and give it so much more energy, right? And I think you can see that. Like, how many problems in your life could have been avoided if you just didn't give it all that much attention? If you didn't magnify it, escalate it, make it bigger, and if you just let it go, if you learned the art, the skill of just walking away, of just letting it go, of not getting a rise out of people or a rise out of things. But I think we're so used to being so attached that it's a I wouldn't say a difficult skill. Well, it actually is a very, very difficult skill, but it's difficult of a skill to even want to learn because we find value in pushing and probing and prodding and going that direction. So very, very interesting concept on the idea of overcoming lustful thoughts. I know there's a lot of other content that I have that's going to help you understand how to actually like overcome the urges when they come up. But in terms of the lustful thought itself, I wouldn't deal with it. I wouldn't try to go there. I would just let it go, release it, say, that's not me. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to overcome it. Breathe it out, release it, say goodbye, and then focus on the thing that you do want to be creating, building, and moving towards for that day, so it doesn't have to take up any more time, energy, or attention, any of your capacity. Hopefully this helps you. I love you tons, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hey, real quick, if you like that video that you just saw, or if you want to see even better videos than this in a series that I made called Annihilate Porn to help guys or girls like you quit porn, you can subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't forget any alerts, comment, like, all that jazz, and more importantly, check out the next video that's going to take you even further on the journey from where you are to where you want to be. I love you tons. I'll catch you in the next one.